And while Pierce tries to press her more about the lie detector, she flips the script and gets him to talk about his experiences dealing with murderers and hardened criminals. And she does it very subtly, which makes me believe that she is a very sophisticated manipulator. This is not easy to do. Imagine if someone was pressing you about taking a lie detector test. Would you be able to scramble out of giving a yes or no answer as quickly and effectively as she did? As we watch on, you're going to see Pierce is totally distracted by this.
And voice messages. The voice messages he's kept apparently, and there is
maybe taping me in the holy arms. I don't know if he's got any voicemail.
But if he has 350 voice messages and it's you,
it doesn't mean the drama is true.
But is it possible he's got 350 voice messages?
I doubt that very much. I just don't think so.
You doubt it?
Yeah, I doubt it. I mean, unless he's taping me.
I mean, if you've never really contacted him, if he's
he
got
could have been taping me in the holy arms, though.
But if he's got 350,
I've not contacted
but if these are on his phone,
yeah, it doesn't matter whether they're on a phone, tablet, whatever they're on. I've not contacted.
But I'm curious, why would there even be a possibility of him having that number of voice messages from you?
Because he's crazy. He wants to make this up. I mean, I've not phoned the guy. I don't have his number.
Yeah, but you're not sure that he hasn't got those.
I think the only explanation for having a voicemail from me would be taping me in the holy arms. That's the only place.
Or that you've left messages on his phone.
That's the other explanation, which just didn't happen.
So I'm going to replay this exchange that Pierce and Fiona had, where he presses her about the voicemails. And I want you to listen to Fiona's response, knowing how to analyze a denial. And if you're not familiar, this is a card from my deception deck. The deception deck is my 52 favorite rules for spotting lies and manipulation, which you can order at deceptiondeck.com. When assessing a denial, it's important to evaluate its reliability. Liars often find it challenging to directly deny guilt. To detect reliable denials, consider these 3 key elements. Number 1, pronouns. Did the speaker use I, which often indicates honesty, or opt for a less personal pronoun like we or you? 2, negation. Was a straightforward negation such as I did not or didn't used? Or did the speaker choose a less reliable discrepancy verb like couldn't or wouldn't? And 3rd, specificity. Did they address the specific accusation made against them or respond to an altered version that was too narrow or too broad or too vague?
The voice messages he's kept apparently, and there is
maybe taping me in the holy arms. I don't know if he's got any voicemail.
But if he has 350 voice messages and it's you,
it doesn't mean the drama is true.
But is it possible he's got 350 voice messages?
I doubt that very much. I just don't think so.
You doubt it?
Yeah, I doubt it. I mean, unless he's taping me.
I mean, if you've never really contacted him, if he's
he
got
could have been taping me in the holy arms, though.
But if he's got 350
I've not contacted.
But if these are on his phone.
Yeah, it doesn't matter whether they're on a phone, tablet, whatever they're on. I've not contacted.
But I'm curious, why would there even be a possibility of him having that number of voice messages from you?
Because he's crazy. He wants to make this up. I mean, I've not phoned the guy. I don't have his number.
Yeah, but you're not sure.
So how do we rate her denial here? It turns out she never directly said, I never left him a voicemail. That's important because that would be a perfect denial. It would have the pronoun I, it would have the negation did not, and it would be specific. Also, by saying I never left him a voicemail, we wouldn't be quibbling about the number of voicemails. For example, if she left him 299, she could honestly say I never left him 300. She didn't do that. Also, she stopped short of saying he made all this up. She said he wants to make this up. So what are we to understand here? What I think is going on is something she's done in the first 2 parts of this series as well, quibbling about the precise definitions of things. For example, when you and I think of voicemail, and probably Pierce as well, we're thinking of someone calling your phone, letting it ring, and then leaving a message on their voicemail box. However, she's using voicemail and voice recording interchangeably, which means that she might have sent him 300 audio recordings, maybe by text from some anonymous number, or via MMS rather than SMS, so later she could say, I never texted him. Just like she said, I never called him. So we have to be very, very specific in the way that we understand her denials.
Or that he hasn't got those.
I think the only explanation for having a voicemail from me would be taping me in the Holy Arms. That's the only place we've
Or that
ever
you've
met.
left messages on his phone.
That's the other explanation, which just didn't happen.
You can't be sure.
I can't be sure because I didn't have his number.
Right. You just said you weren't sure if these were your voice messages.
Yeah, what I mean is somebody could be taping me. You know, somebody could have taped me in the Holy Arms.
Right,
On a dictaphone or something
but if
like that.
here's my point to you, is
Yeah.
that these are easily provable things.
Yeah.
He's either got them or he hasn't.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we'll be asking for disclosure of that. But
And the emails, obviously, there'll be an IP address, and that if that leads to you.
Yeah. I mean, my point is, though, even if that were true, I didn't lunge at him across the bar. I didn't sexually assault him in a canal. I didn't go to jail.
I understand.
So,
but here's my point to you.
yeah.
Here's my point to you, Fiona. And I'm not trying to catch you out. I'm not trying to trap you. I'm genuinely fascinated.
Once again, if you saw part 1 and part 2 in the series, notice how when she denies sexually assaulting him, it's specific. I did not sexually assault him in a canal. If she sexually assaulted him in the pub or out on the street, she could say that and pass a polygraph. She could even say it in court and not be held in contempt because technically it's true. She did not assault him in a canal. That's not the same as saying a reliable denial, I did not assault Richard Gadd, which would be a reliable denial.
Fascinated by this story. I watched the drama. I saw them declare it at the start as a true story. And I've seen the interviews since with all various people. And it's clearly a very complex situation, this. But unless I'm mishearing you, I think what you're saying is there is a possibility that you send a lot of emails.
No,
and a lot of voice messages,
I didn't say
but that it doesn't mean that you did the more serious things.
Yeah, I am not saying at all that I sent loads of emails. You maybe misheard, play back the interview. What I'm saying is a handful at most. If I did, congratulations about the show.
But if he does have 350 voice messages.
I know that he doesn't.
And it's your voice.
He doesn't.
And everyone can now hear your voice.
Unless he was taping me in the Holy Arms.
Or he just kept them on his phone.
I didn't phone him. You sound unconvinced, but
no, I'm not.
I mean, what?
No. So is your point that are you challenging him to reveal this evidence?
No, I would challenge him to leave me alone.
Because you're calling him a liar, and you're calling Netflix accomplice.
I didn't use those words. I said the story, the play, the Netflix show is not true.
No, but if they say that you sent 41,000 emails,
well, they are completely
messages,
wrong.
All 744
They're
tweets.
completely wrong.
So they are lying.
They are lying. Yes, okay, yeah, in effect, he is lying and they are lying. And in order for a dramatization to be true, it's got to be, the only defenses are veritas, I'm telling the truth, or the whole drama needs to be true. They have billed it as a true story, so has he, and it's not. It's blatantly not. Even if the email thing was true, the rest is not. So
why would you qualify that, Fiona?
Sorry, why would I what?
Why would you suddenly qualify even if it's true about the emails?
The point of my channel is to give you tools to determine if someone is toxic or dangerous or manipulating you or lying to you. And I think the reason Fiona Harvey is being so careful with her words, instead of outright denying things like I never left him a voicemail, is because she doesn't think she has to. In her mind, she believes that if Netflix even got one detail wrong, she has a claim against them and she can sue them. The upshot for us is she's not denied being a stalker clearly enough for me to say, hey, I feel comfortable with this person. So if she moved in across the street from me and I had to make a judgment call about whether I should go over and welcome her to the neighborhood or avoid her at all costs, I would err on the side of caution at this point because she has not done enough to deny the claims against her. And I think part of the reason is she knows she doesn't have to based on her understanding of the law.
I'm just playing devil's advocate here.
Right, but when you say even if the emails were true,
I didn't send him 41,000
it doesn't mean the
emails.
more serious stuff is.
Let me rephrase that.
That's really what you're saying, right? I mean, I don't want to force you into saying anything that's not actually true, but it seems to me that it may be possible that you have communicated all this stuff with him, but that doesn't mean you did the more serious things.
Yeah,
That's
true.
It doesn't mean you attacked his girlfriend. It doesn't mean you smashed up a bar. Yeah. It doesn't mean you did any of those things or threatened anybody. It just, yes, you had a relationship with this guy and you did contact him a lot.
I knew this guy. I didn't contact him a lot. I've never said that in this interview at all.
No. But but interestingly, for me, as an interviewer, and I'm just trying to get to the truth. You understand?
No,
I honestly not trying to
see that. It's your show.
I'm not trying to trip you up. I'm just trying to get to the truth.
I see that.
He has put his version out there, and the world has watched it.
Absolutely.
Millions and millions of people around the world have had Richard Gadd's version.
I know.
And I'm simply saying to you that you have a chance here, Fiona, I think, and take this any way you want, but you have a chance here to concede that some of these things might be possible, but that doesn't mean the more serious things happen.
I mean, what I'm saying is...
Because the more serious stuff we know is serious, right? If you were...
if you were in the jail or something...
If you were a violent stalker, or if you'd had a previous situation where you got this interim incident, which we know was served on you.
No, it was not. Sorry to interrupt there. No, she has repeatedly maintained this over 25 years. I checked with the Sheriff Clark. Another lawyer checked with the Sheriff Clark. We think that the previous scenario happened.
Once again, we have a failure to deny, and this is something I brought up in part 2 of this series, how to handle a stalker. What Piers is referring to here is Fiona's ex-boss giving all of her employees emergency alarms because of how Fiona conducted herself after they fired her. And rather than denying that she did anything to warrant that, she instead latched onto the fact that Piers said she had an injunction taken out against her. And this is a common tactic of sophisticated manipulators and liars, is they are very good at distracting people from the matter at hand. If I were interviewing her, I would drill down into that. Was the story true, regardless of whether the injunction was taken out against her according to the minutiae of Scottish law? But Piers got distracted there, and later in this interview I watched ahead, we're going to see him get distracted off an even bigger, potentially more damning topic.
She does not have an interim interdict. I think she's quite wrong.
Okay.
If the Sheriff Clark can produce that and say she didn't muck up and minuted for decree, why was I not served an interim injunction?
If Richard Gadd is watching this, what's your message to him?
Leave me alone, please. Get a life, get a proper job. I am horrified at what you've done.
And you will categorically be taking legal action?
Absolutely, against both him and Netflix.
You said your boyfriend's a lawyer, so this can be done.
He's not doing it, no. I'm not doing it. Somebody else is doing it.
Have you instructed lawyers?
We've instructed them in part, but we want to explore all the options out there. There are a number of people to sue. We can't all be in 10 courts all at once. So,
who else are you planning to sue?
The Daily Mail. Anyone that's saying this is true and harassing me and that kind of thing. We have not had time to do everything.
If the investigation, if you sue and there's discovery, and it turns out that 41,000 emails did come from a device belonging to you, how would you feel about that? I
wouldn't be suing if I thought there were 41,000 emails out there.
You understand how easy it is to find them?
I understand completely.
And that if they did exist and you're categoric that they didn't, it would obviously
it wouldn't blow the whole case. It wouldn't blow the case against Netflix and it wouldn't blow the case against him.
No, you might well have
making out it's a true story.
No.
If you see what I mean, I'm back to my original position.
I understand, and I understand that it's obviously put your life into a very difficult position.
One of the fundamental things to understand when you're doing statement analysis and really listening to what people say is that people always speak based on everything they know. So if you're speeding and a cop pulls you over, you're going to say something different if you know you were speeding than if you know you weren't, even if you're planning to lie to them. Here, Piers asks about the lawsuit, and in her own words, Fiona says, I would not sue them if I thought there were 41,000 emails out there. That is very different than saying, I'm suing them because I never sent those emails, I am innocent, and I'm being unfairly persecuted because Richard Gadd lied about me. In other words, saying you're suing because there's no evidence to prove you're guilty and you're aware of that is very different than declaring your innocence or even denying the fact. And throughout this series, I am not satisfied that she has denied sending Richard Gadd thousands or even tens of thousands of emails. The only thing she's actually denied is sending him 41,000 emails. So let's break this down. What exactly does this statement mean? I did not send Richard Gadd 41,000 emails. If that statement is true, and we will accept it as true, it's a reliable denial based on the rules I gave at the start of this video. So if that is true, which of these is possible? Option A, that she sent 40,999 emails. Option B, that she sent 41,001 emails. Option C, that she paid a troll to email Richard Gadd. Or option D, all of the above. The correct answer here, even if it's slightly counterintuitive, is that all of the above are possible, even if that statement and denial is 100% honest and accurate. And that is how sophisticated liars lie. And the prime example of that is Bill Clinton. I did not have sexual relations with that woman.
It's very
and their central claim that they made all this effort not to lead to you being identified, I don't think stands water.
I don't think it stands water.
To me, it's pretty. I could have listen. I've been a journalist 40 years. I could have discovered it was you in about 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Once I'd watched.
Yes, I agree. I discovered it was me when I saw the BBC breaking news Baby Reindeer show at the Edinburgh Festival, when I was Googling up just the news that day or the weather or something, and this came up, and he was holding up a placard or a newspaper article, MP's wife stalker, all you need to do is Google that. Then I saw the name of the show and I thought, bloody hell, what's he up to? And I tried to get a friend to go see the show because she was based in Edinburgh, but she was on holiday. Nobody I know had seen that show either. So I was really shocked. I was very upset for 2-3 days. And then the general plan of action among my close friends was, look, just, let him get on with things. He's not going to be that damaging. You don't really know him. This will go away.
When
Famous
did you last have any
words.
contact with him?
Famous last words. Years ago.
Do you remember when?
Years ago, no. I left the Holy Arms, didn't go back, and he was calling me a stalker and things. And there were various things happening in the Holy Arms. Other women were warning me about them and everything. Yeah.
About him?
About him and others with bad conduct.
In relation to the 106 letters that he and Netflix say you sent, well, here's my point. You've admitted sending him one, and that presumably was a handwritten letter.
Could it be, are you thinking I was maybe mistaken, that I maybe did?
No. I'm just saying, if we accept that the one that you admit to sending is in your own handwriting, he has another 105 letters in your handwriting.
Nonsense. It's nonsense.
Are you prepared for him to show that one?
He's maybe forged things. I mean, people forge.
Innocent people have no problem denying things they didn't do. But once again, just like the voicemails, we see Fiona struggling to deny writing the letters. And in fact, she does another tell for deception here, where she mocks the very notion that she could have sent all these letters to Richard. And mockery is actually another card in my deception deck. So if you're not familiar, the deception deck is my 52 favorite rules for spotting lies and manipulation. So why is mockery a good sign for deception? I'll read you the rule. When faced with accusations, liars often try to discredit or intimidate their accusers, lacking factual evidence to defend themselves. In contrast, truthful individuals usually respond quickly with direct denials and provide concrete evidence to support their assertions. So, if she never sent him any letters, it should be very easy for her to say, I never sent him a letter. But that's not what's happening here. She's not denying it, and then B, she seems to be trying to imply that the entire notion is crazy by mocking it.
Will forge a lot of things.
You think he could successfully write 105 letters to himself?
Well, I certainly didn't.
No, but you admit to sending one. My point is, if it turns out the other 105 are exactly the same handwriting, wouldn't that point
Yeah,
to
I mean,
maybe...
we'd obviously bring in handwriting experts. I didn't do it. Not guilty.
You only
I'm
ever sent
sorry.
one letter.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I haven't sent that guy 106 letters.
Do you still email people?
Once again, a very specific denial. I haven't sent him 106 letters. What about 105?
What do you mean?
Do you send emails?
Yeah.
Do you have the same email address you've always had?
I had 6 at one point.
Why?
Because I like to keep people on different phones and different emails.
Six different email accounts?
Maybe 4. I think it's 4 to 6, yeah. It's
four-
easier.
four or
it's
six?
easier. So you have some for your utilities, some for close friends, whatever. Yeah.
The 6 is a lot.
Is it?
I don't know anybody with 6 email addresses.
You don't know many people then. I know people with 4 or 6 emails address.
Or was it 4 or 6?
I can't remember. Probably 6.
How many do you use today?
I had 4 phones. I've got 1 today, but I only email select friends.
And you have 4 phones?
Yeah, 2 broke. They were very, very old. 1 was brand new and broke, and it's still to be returned to the shop. I like keeping people on separate phones as well. And maybe that makes me a maniac or a stalker or something. But if you've got somebody on about your electricity bill or somebody on about some work or something, it's nice to keep it separate, you know. So I didn't do that in Scotland. You didn't have to, but the volume of calls.
2 big things to point out here. The first one, that she allowed for the possibility that she's a stalker. Much truth is said in jest. Second, when she was explaining the phones, she said you, right? You have the utilities on the phone, you do this, you do that. This is a sign of deception because when someone says you, they are not saying that they did something. In other words, they're speaking in the hypothetical. So as far as I'm concerned, she might be saying, yes, you, normal people like peers, might have separate phones to deal with business and personal affairs and friends. But she's not saying that's what she does. She didn't say I. And I is also in the deception deck. So in the deck, each suit is a different deception factor. For example, we have words and phrases, concepts, and cues. We almost have a royal flush when it comes to Fiona. And I started off really thinking that she could possibly be innocent. But the more I watch, the more I lean towards the idea that Richard Gadd did not exaggerate her as much as she wants us to believe. Although I've not made up my mind entirely yet. We have to keep watching.
Do you think, Fiona, do you think if somebody did send someone 41,000 emails, 350
I think that's
messages,
excessive, obviously, yeah.
would that mean someone's stalking someone?
Well, yes and no. I mean, it could be it could be your wife. It could be you're maybe sending emails every day about the kids or something like that. I don't know. 41,000 is a lot. That's how many a day? My maths isn't working this time of night. But it's a lot. It's a lot. Yeah. That doesn't necessarily mean they're stalking somebody. They could be great friends. They could have been friends for 50 years or something.
Was he ever your friend, Richard Gadd?
No. Staff asked me that as well. No, I don't think so.
But you had a lot of banter with him.
Yeah, but banter's one thing. Scottish banter down here is quite kind of welcome. It's not really fun city, is it? It's not jokey city.
Were you ever in love with him?
Yes. Is that a serious question?
Yeah.
No.
Whether or not Fiona's answer here was true, I do want to point out that when someone answers a question with a question, it indicates sensitivity. Often it means that they're pausing to think up a deceptive answer, or that they're thinking up a counter question to ask to deflect and distract from that topic. So I'm pointing that out here just so you have that tool, and that is also one of the cards. At the most, I think it's fair to say she has complicated feelings about Richard.
No.
It's not a question of, by his own admission, he has said that he led you on at times. And he clearly
I gave him the brush off. He asked me to sleep with him with a big green spot in his face one day. I said, no, I'm sorry, I'm not interested.
He asked you to do what?
He asked me to sleep with him. He said, would I like my curtains fixed? And I laughed. And he said, that's a euphemism. Do you want me to come home with you? And I said, I've got a boyfriend. I gave him the brush off big time, I think. Subtly so. But the bottom line is, I think this is behind him. No, I don't fancy him. I don't fancy little boys without jobs. That sounds awful. That sounds really, really callous, but, you know.
People will watch this who've watched the Netflix series, and like me, they will be trying to work out where the truth lies. It seems to me that either you're innocent in the way that you've claimed to be, and you've been horribly defamed here. I think at the very least, the Netflix duty of care and Richard Gadd's duty of care has been a spectacular failure.
I agree.
Right, regardless of anything else, regardless of your culpability of anything, the duty of care has failed because people identified you incredibly quickly. So they've made this what they say is a true story, and everyone's worked out it's you, and the picture they paint is of a completely crazed stalker ruining a man's life, albeit he accepts that some of his behaviour may have led the person on.
Can I ask a question? Do you happen to know how much he's made out of this Netflix thing?
I would imagine several £1 million.
Yes, I would say 3 to 4 million. A lawyer I know well thought he was a wee nobody, and he suggested 750 to 100,000. I said, no, I think you're looking more about 3 or 4 million. And I think the more he...
Once again, there we have that number 3. And as I mentioned in part 1 of this series, 3 is the liar's number because when someone's lying, they tend to reach for the number 3. Of course, 3 doesn't always mean that someone's lying, but we note it every time we hear it. In part 1 of this series, we saw Fiona say that she only knew Richard for 2 or 3 months. In part 2 of the series, we saw her say that they only met 2 or 3 times. And now we have her relaying a conversation she had with an unnamed person saying she thinks he made around 3 million. Does this mean that conversation was totally fabricated and never happened? No. However, I've stacked lots of chips at this point that whenever she says the number 3, we need to be very careful that she's not lying to us.
He publicises, it goes up. According to how much it's streamed. I don't know the contract they signed. I think he's done bloody well out of defaming.
Do you resent that?
I don't resent any Scot getting on. This is not what this is about.
But he's effectively making money out of what he says.
He's making money out of
what
my
he says
misery,
is you stalking him.
Yeah, he's making money out of untrue facts. He's been the ultimate misogynist. The actress was also not appealing for calm. He was appealing for calm. I think he did that to sort of stir things up more. I think they knew exactly what they were doing. And I think your staff were talking about Martha, the sequel or something like this. It's just completely
That's what people are hinting at.
It's completely crazy. Well, your staff put that to me and put to me, should I write a book about this? Well, I've got other things to do, but it's a possibility.
You've got a law degree.
Yeah.
Law degree. So you're obviously very bright. How did you do at school?
I've got a photographic memory. I was top.
As we get into this portion of the interview, pay attention to how she avoids answering peers' questions. She doesn't want to talk about her grades, and she gives a clinic in evasiveness here.
Of the school, apart from the science.
Which school was that?
Balfour High. I went to the science. Person got the most marks because you can get 99% in the science.
How many O and A levels did you end up with?
I got 6 hires, 2 SYSs, and they were all most were A-band 1s, which was when the A-band 1 was top of the thing. And
with your law degree, what grade did you get?
Not bad. I mean, all right.
What was it?
I just did an ordinary degree and then a diploma in legal practice.
Well, what grades did you get from?
All right grades. But I went out
what were they?
Partying. I didn't do an honours degree, so just bog standard grades.
What degree did you did a law degree? Or?
I did a law degree with 13 subjects, 13 law subjects. So it wasn't the CPE or anything, which I also have from down here. But it was 13 law subjects.
This is from Aberdeen University.
Yeah.
So what degree did you end up with?
A law degree, and then I did a politics degree after that.
And what grade did you get?
Politics, women's studies. I did substantially better in that because I did more work. I think in our day, when you went to university, you did.
There's a reason you say you got a photographic memory, but what grade did you get?
All right grades. I mean, not top of the year or anything.
No,
but all right
you get
grades.
when you do a degree, you get a.
Yeah, oh, you're asking me what marks I got for 13 subjects. I can't remember.
Well, no, you end up with it. Did you get a first-class degree?
Oh, no. Well, I said I didn't do an honours degree. I wanted to go out and practice, so it was an ordinary degree I did.
Right, but you can't remember how you did.
I did all right. I didn't do top of the year.
Hmm. But the other graduates at the same time, they'd all remember you.
Some of them remember me. One of them did incredibly well. He's a High Court judge. Some people didn't do well. I think
And this is the way she tends to manipulate and evade giving direct responses throughout the interview. It's either you were bottom of the grade or top of the grade. She doesn't tell us exactly what she got. It's the same with the emails. Well, I sent him a handful, which is vague, but I didn't send him 41,000. The truth is very likely somewhere in between. And I even saw a comment in part 1 of this series where one of my subscribers made a great point that the way Piers asked her about the 41,000 emails, the way she said I sent 10 could have an implied K. I sent 10K emails because he was asking things in the tens of thousands, which I thought was a great point, and I might need to go rewatch that.
general idea in the 80s was we didn't really do much work. That sounds absolutely awful, but, you know, that was kind of the 80s.
If it came to it, would you take a lie detector test?
Yeah. Possibly, yeah. I would need to consult other lawyers about that.
If we set one up, you would do it.
A lie detector test for what? You know,
the police, as you know, the police use them. They're just an indication.
They use them for mass murder and things like that.
Well, no, they use them in many cases just to determine whether they think someone's telling the truth.
They don't use them that much. I know you've done the programs of women behind bars and things. I confess, I think I've just seen one, but it's not used that much.
Well, look, I'll be honest with you.
Here, Piers is asking her if she would take a lie detector test. And in my opinion, when it comes to lie detectors, their only real big benefit is to use them as a bluff detector to see if someone would squirm out of taking one, like she just did here. Yes, I would. Well, probably. And while Piers tries to press her more about the lie detector, she flips the script and gets him to talk about his experiences dealing with murderers and hardened criminals. And she does it very subtly, which makes me believe that she is a very sophisticated manipulator. This is not easy to do. Imagine if someone was pressing you about taking a lie detector test. Would you be able to scramble out of giving a yes or no answer as quickly and effectively as she did? As we watch on, you're going to see Piers is totally distracted by this.
Another thing.
Since you mentioned it, I've done a lot of crime interviews with people who've committed way worse offences than what you've been accused of.
Yeah, I haven't seen I know you have.
You know, way more mass murderers, serial killers, and so on. And they're all, I got to say, almost all of them are very good liars. Could it be people to be asking this, watching you, thinking either she's genuinely innocent here, or she's a terrible liar who is capable of all of these things?
I don't lie, and I tell white lies if I absolutely have to. Like when my 94-year-old ex-neighbour was dying, we all knew she was dying, and I'd phoned her in the hospital the night before, and I lied and said, you know, have a good sleep, everything's going to be fine, and that, you know. So I'll tell a white lie like that when somebody clearly needed some rest. And
how many times did you meet Richard Gadd?
Don't know.
What would you guess?
5, 6, maybe 5, 6 times.
Here we have yet another contradiction in Fiona's story. Remember, in part 1, she said she met him 2 or 3 times. Now it's 5, 6. A few seconds prior to this, there was yet another contradiction where she leapt to answer I don't lie and then immediately contradicted herself saying I tell white lies. And in that little spiel about the white lies, you could see the tactics she uses to distract people. She answered the question that was sensitive to her and then immediately brought up some red herring, like this 94-year-old lady who she told a white lie to, possibly hoping that Piers would go down that rabbit hole rather than pursuing the matter further. We're nearing the end of this interview, and we're finally starting to detect the patterns and techniques that she uses to evade and distract from questions that would get us to the heart of the matter of whether or not she has the tendencies or the capacity to be a stalker. But there is one last big denial that she needs to make coming up. So pay attention to the question and the denial that she makes. And by this point in the video, you should be able to decide for yourself if you believe her denial is reliable or not. So pay attention closely.
That's it.
Yeah.
In your life.
Yeah. Yeah.
How do you think it's come to this? If that's all true.
I think he wanted to make money. I think he picked on somebody. There was a backstory there with that stalker article out there, right? So stalking's in vogue. Going to prison's in vogue. What do writers say, or English lecturers or something, write about what you know.
And to people who are watching, look down the barrel of that camera. To people who are watching this and who still doubt you, what do you say to them?
I think you should watch this. I think you should look at the number of articles that Richard Gadd and Jessica, the actress, have done, and how Netflix and he have promoted this. I think you should look at him saying, I am some sort of mental case, and judge for yourselves, because I can't change your mind on this. I can just rebut what has been said. You need to make up your own minds. But my mind is made up. He's a liar. And my friends say likewise.
Fiona Harvey, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
So when the chips were down and Fiona Harvey had the chance to deny being a stalker or deny everything shown in the show, what did she do? She didn't deny it. Instead, she floated some theories about why this might be happening to her. Based on this interview, Fiona seems to me to have the potential to be a stalker, even if Richard Gadd exaggerated her actions in his script. Some in my comments have even speculated that he intended for her to come forward like this to create this exact type of viral organic promotion. If that's the case, we'd surely see signs of that in his interviews. So if you want me to analyze one of his interviews next, please comment part 4 below. I recommend watching the video on your screen right now. It's about Jada Pinkett Smith, another person whose interviews are revealing when you listen to what she's actually saying.